You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media. Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Av Radio.
If you or a family member are 55 or over and need nursing home level care, but want to keep living where you are, check out Providence Elder Place PACE. This program offers healthcare, housing, transportation, and recreational activities. There are no co-pays or deductibles, and it's covered through Medicare and Medicaid. Providence Elder Place PACE works to keep you healthy and in your home. Call 206-320-5325 or visit providence.org Elder Place. Providence.org Elder Place.
Hi, I'm Mac McGregor, the host of the You Can Make a Difference show, which airs live every Friday at 12 noon PT time. On the You Can Make a Difference show, we shine a spotlight on people who are doing amazing things to make a positive difference in our communities and in our world. We talk about what inspired them to do the work and what inspires them to keep going, how they got their start, and how you can, if it inspires you, plug into their work. We can all do something that makes a difference. So tune in every Friday at noon to the You Can Make a Difference show with Mac McGregor.
We got the feeling now.
R&B, soul, funk, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. We give you all that and more on Star Time. Join me, Paul Pearson, for a 2-hour trip through the history of R&B. A new episode every week on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Come and get the feeling on Star Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Black Dollar Day's King County Reparations Project cordially invites you to Remembering Black Wall Street, featuring Dr. Phil Armstrong.
Hello, Seattle and surrounding communities. I'm Phil Armstrong. I'm the director of the Greenwood Rising Black Wall Street History Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Please join me in Seattle this coming Saturday, February the 5th at Washington Hall at 5 p.m. for Remembering Black Wall Street. I look forward to engaging with everyone, whether you are joining us physically or virtually, for these important, courageous conversations.
For more information, visit eventbrite.com, Remembering Black Wall Street.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Hey everyone, welcome to Queen Green's Living, broadcasted on Rainier Avenue Radio. It is your host Queen Bree and Robyn T. How's it going, Robyn? Can you hear us?
Can you
Robyn?
hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can't hear you, but
you can't hear me?
We are broadcasting here from Seattle, Washington. I'll take a moment to let you know we are honoring the stewards of this land who have been here since time immemorial, the Duwamish and Coast Salish people. And for more information, you can go to realrentduwamish.org. And okay, they hear me. I'll figure it out. And of course, it's Black History Month. We have so much going on. I'll kick it back to Breon and get my ears on here somehow.
I feel like that Verizon commercial. Like, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Well, since Robyn is having technical issues and she can't hear us, I think we should just maybe bring our guest, Dr. Jeffrey, on, and then maybe we could just start the conversation. And while she figures out her part, we'll go from there. So, hey, Dr. Jeffrey, how are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month to you.
So we have you on. You are going to be talking to us about the event that's going on this weekend. Black Dollar Days King County Reparations Project presents Remembering Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
It's happening this Saturday at Washington Hall at 5:00.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of information on it?
All right. Well, we have the event will be happening this Saturday, starting at between 5 and 5:30. Our guest, Dr. Philip Armstrong, is going to be there. He'll be speaking somewhere around 7. We have a little program that's going to happen during that time. Our guest singer is I should have wrote these notes down. You know who I'm talking about.
Jason?
Jason Turner and the lady.
Josephine Howell?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Say her name again?
Josephine Howell.
Josephine Howell, yeah.
One
Josephine
of Seattle's famous
Yeah.
singers will
She's
be in
gonna
the
our guest singer, and she'll be there. And of course, Philip Armstrong is a great speaker. He has a presentation from the museum he'll be giving. I don't know if it's a slideshow or whatever, but he'll be talking about the event that happened in 1921, and he'll be talking about the consequences of that event for the business district in Tulsa, and he'll be talking about what they're doing now in Tulsa to try to regain a business section or district in Tulsa. So he'll be sharing with us a lot about what's going on in his struggle. He's a great speaker, and so we're looking forward to Dr. Armstrong being here and bringing to us the stuff that the things that he's doing in Tulsa and all of the things that is going on. We wanted him on the air, I think a couple of days ago, but he was hosting Laura Coates at the museum from CNN, and I think today he's hosting someone else. So he's a busy guy, and he's doing some great things, and so we're looking forward to him being here.
Well, maybe if we have a little bit of time at the museum, on Saturday, we could sit down with him and pre-tape a show with him.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure Philip, he's going to be here Friday at 6. So maybe we can work out something where we can, if you guys want to pre-tape a show, maybe Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. I'm sure we can work that out, where you can pre-tape the show for next week, where many people who don't come to the we don't want to tell people not to come to the event, because it's very important for us to for this event to take place. And all the proceeds are going to go to the reparations project, and which we've talked about before. I think we've talked about the reparations project before on this show. So all the proceeds are going to go to the reparations project, and we're trying to film as many people as we can to tell the story about what happened in the central area and the devastation that happened in the central area. So those two things are combined.
So for those of you who don't know, if you don't mind, Dr. Jeffrey, I'm just going to, because a lot of people don't know about Black Wall Street and what it is and what happened. And I just wanted to let you guys know that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street was one of the most successful, prosperous African-American communities in the United States. And like Dr. Jeffrey said, in 1921, Black Wall Street was attacked, bombed, and what they say was a race war that broke out. But we're going to find out more about that on Saturday. A lot of people don't know that Black Wall Street had over 600 businesses, 21 churches, 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, 2 movie theaters, 6 private airplanes, one hospital, 1 bank, and its own school system. Can you imagine having that?
Yeah, my grandfather was a part of the resistance in during that time. He pastored the church, New Hope Baptist Church in Tulsa for a long time. So I mean, our family is a part of that struggle, that Black Wall Street struggle, and it's informed most of my life, and that's why I've always been involved in economic development and in depressed communities and Black African-American communities, because of the lessons that I learned from my grandfather about how that terrible thing occurred in Tulsa in 1921.
Yeah, I was going to ask when we were talking about having you on the show, because I know is that why you created Black Dollar Days in the first place? Because I know back in the 90s, you were really, it's still now and to this day, you're really about building Black wealth. But I know that you had business classes and you had partnerships with everyone trying to build Black wealth in the community. So is that part of your inspiration?
Well, my grandfather was my primary inspiration in persons who inspired me with his stories about what in Black Wall Street, what happened, and how he escaped by running to a place called South Haven, which eventually we moved to South Haven. My dad moved to, and how he escaped there and developed friendships there. But then eventually moved back to Tulsa and started the first New Hope Baptist Church in Tulsa. I think that the Black Dollar Days task force grew out of I've always been interested in economic development, but the Black Dollar Days task force specifically grew out of something the NAACP was doing back east. Back east a few years ago, the NAACP had this event that each year they called the Black Dollar Days event. And what they would do is they would ask all African American people to exchange their checks when they got paid for Susan B. Anthony dollars, and they would buy all of their purchases with Susan B. Anthony dollars. And that was back in the early, I think, 80s, early mid 80s. And I thought that was not the effective way for the NAACP to go about it, because I always knew that African American people basically had, didn't have a friendly relationship with most banks. I mean, most banks were not giving them loans. Most banks were predatory in the African American community, and going to the banks and cashing your check, that didn't sound like a great notion. So when I came here, we developed the idea of Black Dollar Days Task Force, which was an organization committed to developing ground level business, Black African American businesses, and developing a business district and developing loan funds and those kinds of things. Obviously, and we were combating the people who were against the Black community at that time. We gave out about 7 or 8 Bull Connor Awards to some of the leading so-called citizens of Seattle, which eventually led to the church being destroyed and the organization pretty much being dismantled at that time. And the struggle continues. I mean, as long as you live and breathe, you keep the work up. I mean, you don't stop the work just because you lose a few appendages. You keep on going. I mean, this is a new manifestation of the work. The farm, which is we started the farm in the early 90s. I mean, the early 2000s, because of the need in our community for organic foods. And at the beginning, we thought the farm would be an engine for Black Dollar Days, but we soon realized that the money that we spent trying to deal with the farm is not going to be an economic engine for anything except the farm itself. Because farming, my heart goes out to all farmers, because their profit margins are, their profit margins are not that high. And with the corporations taking over farmland, and with corporations and with synthetic crops being grown with all kinds of non-organic chemicals in them, and all kinds of things, growth hormones and all kinds of things being put into the crops, and as well as the animals. And I mean, it's really a corporate mess, and it's destroying the health of regular poor people. I mean, you got stores cropping up all around to liberate the rich from that mess. Whole Foods and all those stores, they are set up to make sure that the rich and the powerful don't have to eat that mess, but the poor people still have to eat it, because we can't afford Whole Foods. I mean, how many people can go to Whole Foods for their shopping if they have 3 or 4 children and they own $16, $17 an hour? I mean, they can't shop at Whole Foods, so they have to eat this crap, and they have to eat these growth hormones, and they have to eat all these chemicals, and then they have to pray that they don't get sick, because the law of averages, tells us if you eat this stuff, you're gonna die. You're gonna end up with disease. You're gonna end up with high blood pressure. You're gonna end up with heart disease. You're gonna end up with cholesterol disease. You're gonna end up with all this stuff by eating this crap, and your children are gonna be obese. You're gonna become obese, and your children are gonna grow up 8 years old, they're going to look like they're 14. And so this kind of stuff is targeting poor communities all over the world, not just in America. And the corporations are getting rich by these things. So I'm going off into a tangent, but I mean, that's why we got into
I love that topic though.
That's why we get into clean greens. And so that's the new manifestation of Black Dollar Days. And right now we're working on the reparations project. And the reparations project is a very serious project where we're filming as many stories as we can. We've already got about 10 stories in the can. We want to film around 70 or 80 before we're through. And so we're going to take our time. We'll find the stories and we'll film them of the struggle that people, African-American primarily, have had trying to deal with racism in central Seattle and how they were eventually moved out by corporate and city and governmental institutional racism. We weren't bombed in a day like Greenwood, but we were bombed over time.
Right.
By
It's
those
going to be
institutions.
amazing to see like the project keep unfolding. And I love adding this piece of this event. And Breon, when you were saying those numbers, honestly, in my head, when I think about this event and this story in 1920, I picture like a tiny little old timey like town, but what it was when you put it like the numbers to it, 600 businesses, 30 grocery stores, 30 churches, like not only like was it like immense, but it was like a super thriving place. And we've known like, okay, it was thriving, but like it was like a model, of how a community supports itself. And so not only were the businesses lost, but like the model of what was built there. And that like the tragedy was hitting me before a few years ago. And now that's hitting me like, okay, but that was actually like a beautiful example of a thriving place of like how you set up to support everybody and have all the needs met. Like it's just amazing to think about like how it was just gone so fast. And then, what it was built like organicamente, this is how we would do it.
Yeah, that's how we would do it. And the money was circulating in the community. And then the whole concept of the businesses growing and reaching out tentacles to other cities and those kind of things in the way other businesses have grown and other, stores or commercial stores have grown in this country. But all that was destroyed in a week. I mean, it was just totally devastated. In addition to, which destroyed wealth, potential wealth for children, grandchildren, and their distant children and their children's children. I mean, for example, our family was affected. I mean, all kinds of families were affected by stolen wealth because when you bomb up a city, you destroy the potential for wealth and you destroy the potential for any of those families and any of those children to participate in any kind of wealth or any kind of thing. So, and then you pretend that it didn't happen. And you pretend that these people are just lazy and slowful. And that's the reason why they haven't gotten anywhere. This story can be also duplicated all across the South. Anytime business districts got to the point where they were actually being able to self-sustaining and they were able to take business away, even though there's a myth that blacks didn't buy from whites before integration. Black African Americans always bought from white stores. They had to stand in the back. They had to stand in the back of the line, but they were always buying from these stores. And their money always went into these commercial enterprises. These businesses were taking money away from these commercial enterprises. That's why they had to be destroyed. And they were also building up an infrastructure that could be competitive with these other infrastructures. And that's why they had to be destroyed and minimized and kept non-competitive, so that when integration came, African Americans were unable to compete with the larger stores and the larger outside businesses because of the constant destruction of their potential and constant destruction of their potential, their capacity to build up longevity and to build up sustainability. And so now we're just prisoners of an economy that it's hard to get into because they have such a head start. They have a 300-year head start. And it's hard to compete in that kind of economy. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't try it, and that doesn't mean that we should give up, but that does mean that it's a struggle. And our children have to understand why it's a struggle. They have to understand that it's not a struggle because we're stupid. It's not a struggle because we're slowful. It's a struggle because every time we build something up, it is destroyed. I mean, it is overtly destroyed by bombing or fires or all kinds of ways. And then the blame is shifted and said it's an accident, like in the case of New Hope, or it's something that you started because you were not being in your place, or you were doing something illegal, so we had to burn your entire business district down. I mean, it's always an excuse for terrorizing people who have no capacity really to defend themselves.
If you're just tuning in, you're tuning into Clean Greens Living Live, broadcasted on Rainier Avenue Radio. We have Dr. Jeffrey from Clean Greens talking about the event happening this week with Remembering Wall Street at Washington Hall at 5:30. Please join us so that we can learn more about Black Wall Street and other communities like that. Like you said, we are always bombed, or there's fires, and then also flooding. They have flooded out many of African American cities, and I think that we're going to touch on that for the next few weeks on Clean Greens and talk about that, because I love that now history is pivoting and we're talking more about the wealth in educated Black people instead of always referring back to slavery. I mean, yes, we definitely need to know that history, but we also need to know the other parts, and people understand.
Slavery is only a piece of the puzzle. When we talk about reparations, we're not necessarily talking about slavery. We're talking about what has happened since slavery. We're talking about Reconstruction and how African Americans were told by General Howard, who founded Howard University, that they didn't need land. All they need was jobs. That's what he told them, and he was the head of the operation to restore Blacks into the society. He gave a speech in New Orleans, I think it was, or somewhere down south, where he told the Blacks to stop. They were trying to claim land on an island which they owned in North Carolina somewhere. I can't give you the exact history. I'll give it to you, and you can put it in your next show. I'll just tell it to you or find the documentation. And General Howard told them that no, your job is not to contest for land. Give the land back. And your job is to just seek to get employed and get paid for your employment. That's what the war was about. It wasn't about you getting the land. And many Black people were sold out by General Howard. He founded Howard University, which was a good thing. But on the other hand, he destroyed the potential for Black economic sustainability in America, on the other hand. And he had the authority and power to do that. So I think the history is filled with incidents like that, filled with terror, the Ku Klux Klan terror, and governmental terror, and government-sponsored terror, which is we can see evidence of that here in Seattle.
Yeah, we always a lot of times talk about how Seattle is undercover with their racism all the time.
But I don't think they're that undercover. I think that they've been very explicit in their documents, that very explicit in their laws, and very explicit in their behavior about the place of African Americans here. And they've been very explicit about what they want to do, and they've pretty much done whatever they wanted to do. And I know that people keep talking about the good old days in Seattle, but I'm reminded of this movie, Django, where they kept talking about what did they call the plantation? I can't remember the name of the plantation, the Candyland. And when I hear people talk about good old days in Seattle, it sounds a whole lot like Candyland. And I just think that they don't understand, or they don't comprehend the depth of the destruction that was done to the Black people in this city. And either they don't know or they don't want to know. And they want to pretend that this was Candyland. But let me tell you something. This was never Candyland. And it was never Candyland, and it is not Candyland now. And we need to face that reality. We need to understand that. That's not blaming anybody. That's not putting any kind of onus or blame on anybody. That's just simply saying that this is what is. This is the reality of the history of this city, and this is the reality going forward unless we try to change it. Collectively try to change it.
That real estate's like such a big piece. Like,
Yes.
like I feel like you might even be referencing things like redlining and the eminent domain, and even kind of more recently, like weed and seed. Do you all know about that?
The abatement laws, which I believe, and we're going to get a legal opinion on this, but I believe that it was an infringement of the 14th Amendment, the right to due process under the law. For example, if a young lady was living in an apartment and her boyfriend was selling drugs, they didn't just seize his property, they seized her property too. She did not go to court. She did not have her day in court. She was not given a chance to defend herself, show receipts for her property. Everything was taken, and nobody was given due process. A grandmama's house was taken because her grandchildren were selling drugs out of her house. If you can prove that in court, a court of law, then fine. But citizens have a right for their day in court. You just can't come in and seize their property. That's a violation of the 14th Amendment. All that was done just without any criticism or without any kind of resistance in the city during the 90s. It was just done with abandon. And now everybody is saying, well, we lost the city because of drugs. Yeah, we lost it because of unfair search and seizures, and we lost it because of the abandonment of the 14th Amendment rights for Black people, because they were not seen as citizens of this country. They were seen as people that you could not give legal rights to. And so I think that's a problem. That's a real problem.
And you're getting the documentation, you're getting stories.
We're trying to get stories of people who've lost, how they lost it, all of this stuff. We'll be gathering that. This is one of the things I'll be doing for a while.
Can you tell? I'm glad that you mentioned that, Robyn, because I wanted to ask you, can you tell us more about that so people can know who to contact and talk to get their stories heard about what's happened to their families?
Yeah, I think that we're going to get a 1-800 number. We're going to be in the process of getting a 1-800 number. Hopefully we can get that by Saturday. I need some help to get that. But if you have a story, you can just call my phone, 206-795-2343. 206-795-2343. We're filming the stories, and we'll schedule a time for you to come in. We'll film your story in total, and you're just telling your story. And then we'll just compile all the stories once we get, as I said, a cumulative amount of, enough stories together.
And I know we talked about
206-795-2343.
We'll make sure we put that up too on the Instagram.
But I want to get this 1-800 number, because I don't want to be answering my phone 24/7.
Right, because you are a busy man.
You guys help me do that. You guys help me get that number.
Okay, we will. He is a busy man, so please be patient with that 795 number.
Yeah.
Before you leave real quick, I know we talked about reparations projects for Seattle, but can you just tell people what exactly that is for those who just tuned in or who's just seeing this episode and isn't aware of what Reparations King County is?
Well, reparations, the King County Reparations Project has to do with 4 different things. Property was seized illegally through racialization of eminent domain. It was seized illegally through the subprime lending program that went through in the early 2000s, where banks gave loans and then started hiking up the interest rates so people couldn't afford to keep their homes. Or people bought homes and then lost them because they were underwater, because the rates started rocketing, and they targeted African American people. It was also the abatement laws that seized property because they said that someone was selling drugs out of your property, and they seized the property without you being able to prove in court of law that that what they were doing had nothing to do with you. The redlining that went on previous to all of this. and people who asked for loans that couldn't get them, people who were trying to fix up their homes, they couldn't get it. People were trying to refinance their homes, they couldn't get decent loans, and they had great credit. So those are the 5 different areas that we want to talk about. People who fought redlining, we want to talk to them. Anybody who had to deal with redlining or any of these areas, we want to talk to you and just let you tell your story. I mean, tell the story. If you tell your story of your grandmother, tell your story, because my grandfather, I'm telling the story through Black Wall Street of my grandfather. And so tell the story. I mean, tell people what happened to you. Don't just scream in the dark. I mean, don't just give up. I mean, if something happened to you, say something about what happened to you. Let the next generation know that you are not where you are because nothing happened to you, that something actually happened to you that put you in this position. And you need to tell your story. And I think that we're not going to put anything out there until we have at least 70 or 80 collective stories. They can't come against all of you. You know, they're not going to do that. So we're not going to put you out there and single you out. Just tell your story, and we'll put all of them together and put them in a documentary, and then we'll release it, and we'll put it in a report that we'll issue to the city and to the state, demanding reparations.
Nice. Okay, guys, we are running out of time. Just a reminder, this Saturday, February 5th at Washington Hall, we will be remembering Black Wall Street with Dr. Phil Armstrong, the director of Black Wall Street Museum from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We hope to see you guys there. There is a Zoom option. You can find out and purchase your tickets on Eventbrite, or you can contact us and we will connect you to where you need to be connected. But this is information that we need to listen to and be a part of. And
there'll be a band. The Lonnie Williams band's going to be there, and they'll play after Phil gets through speaking. The band will play, and anybody who wants to dance or whatever they want to do will have a chance to do that.
Hey.
All
right, guys.
Thank
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.